and I've made about, I think, 3 or 4 presentations this week. I'm here, I got a few more to make. This will be the first one with the Aqua Smart. The other ones I have made have been dealing with various companies that I've owned and projects and what have you. But this one here, we're going to just concentrate on the product development of the Aqua Smart, which was a wireless remote for electric water heaters. And what I'm going to try to do, I know that time is limited, so what I understand is that the secret of a good presentation is to have a good opening and a good beginning, and they have the two as close together as possible, so I'm going to try to do that. This handout, which, because there's so much information here, had Jackie print sets of these up. They have a lot of information regarding all the websites to go to, from the USPTO to LegalZoom to trademark development to boxing, what have you. So you can refer to it afterwards. To try to follow through with it right now, it's probably not going to be that helpful. What I'd like to do to talk to you about is the Aqua Smart, which I said earlier was the development of a wireless thermostat for electric hot water heaters. Like to have you turn off those cell phones. You can leave yours on though, okay? Because you're not going to see this on a Facebook or an Instagram or Twitter or any YouTube or anything. It is just information of how I started the whole process of developing a product, and that's what this is all about. This is one product versus the 4 or 5 that I presented earlier to other groups and what have you. The whole idea, the concept came when I was on the way for a vacation. I shut down my HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, HVAC, thermostat, shut down my hot tub and what have you. And I had an electric hot water heater. And to open up electric hot water heater, to change the thermostats, you have to take off this cover, you have to take off this cover, you have to take off this cover, and then inside you're sticking a screwdriver in 220 volts. And you do it at the top and you do it at the bottom. 99% of the people don't want to mess with 110, much less 220. So people generally do not adjust their water heater, electric water heaters. The electric water heater is the second largest energy consumption device in your home, next to an HVAC, your furnace and air conditioner system. It can consume as much as 27% of your electric power each month. It's big. So I continue on with my vacation. I am always thinking, I was always inventing and what have you. Found a piece of paper at the other end and started drawing what I knew about the water heater. Now, what you don't know about me is that I developed remote control devices for gas fireplaces. And I built a huge company called Skytech and had 25 different remote control systems for all the gas fireplaces and logs in the country. So I knew a little bit about remote technology. I knew about a design technology for a product. And I wanted to make it as close as I could to an HVAC looking thermostat so people would feel comfortable messing with it. So I started these drawings in September 15th of 2010, and the product name or number is, item number is 91510. Just decided to pick that. There's another set of drawings. When I got into the electrical part of it, I began to understand it a little bit better of what I needed to do. Now, this is show up here. This is my company that was Skytech. So these are all the different remotes that I had. I had LCD screens. And this is an HVAC thermostat. So you'll see as we go along, I kind of copied that design a little bit. I took a lot of the technology I had out of this, put the two together, and then I built a prototype. And it was a crude prototype. And if you see this device right here, this is a hair curler. The hair curler goes up to the temperatures that a water heater goes to. So I took thermostats and I mounted them on a steel panel. I did all the wiring internally to see if there was a proof of concept that my idea would work if I miniaturized everything and created this remote device. And this is a retrofit device. I should mention that up front. That's really important. There's only 3 manufacturers of water heaters in the country. A.O. Smith was one, Bradford White, and Greene. They own 96% of the marketplace. They're the ones that have been supplying water heaters for hundreds of years. And their technology had not changed for 100 years. It was the same old upper stat, lower stat, and wired direct from your power panel, 220 volts, versus an HVAC or a furnace thermostat, which has a low voltage wire, which comes from the furnace and hooks up to the thermostat. So the big difference is that water heater could be located in a basement, in a garage, in a closet, and what have you, but it's hard wiring directly to the water heater. So there really is no way, other than the thermostats that are on the water heater, there was no way to adjust that water heater. So the next thing I did was develop some prototypes, really crude stuff, using some of the existing technology that I had. Some of those parts actually came out of the Skytech remotes and what have you. The next thing, and this is, we're going to see this happen. This was one of the prototypes that I ended up building. There was two of them. This one here I thought was cute because it looked like a water heater. And when I went out to market and did some testing, they said, "What is that?" They rather see it this way. And so ultimately, that's what it ended up being. It's like this. So you need to get some feedback from your customer before you go forth. The next thing I needed to do was to research the existing patents. Now, this is where you start in your brochure here. This is the USPTO, is the United States Patent and Trademark Office. It's a very, very friendly website. And you can go there and follow all these steps to find out if somebody has built something like this, had designed something like this, had patented something like this over the last 100 years, 200 years probably. Very important to do that before you develop a new product, is to make sure you're not trying to reinvent a wheel that somebody already has a patent on. So that's that step. The next thing I did, I went to the energy department and the DOA, and they had an 80-page report all about water heating and how much energy electric water heater. There's two. There's gas water heaters and electric water heaters, and of course today there's other types. But and that's when I found all the statistics, and I found that there was really nobody doing anything like this, even the big three water heater companies. And I also found out how much energy was being used. Then I went to various stores, Lowe's, Home Depot, Sears, and what have you, and looked up and down the aisle at their product lines. I looked at all the catalogs that had come out, product catalogs that had come out from the big three water heater manufacturers and what have you. So I was beginning to feel comfortable about that. The next thing I did was I went to industry trade shows. And these trade shows you can go to, they're free. You have to sign up and what have you. And you get a badge and you walk around and you kick the tires, as they say, find out what's going on in the marketplace. And there was nothing. I walked into plumbing and heating booths and what have you. I said, is there a way you can control your water heater remotely? No way. Nobody was even talking about it. Nobody was even working on it. So I thought I had something really good. I got into all the trade magazines that are out there. I went to the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, went to Global Sources. I bought all their magazines. I looked at everything that was going on in Asia and in Europe, trying to find out whether or not they were doing something different, because America doesn't have the ownership of all new technology and what have you. So the next thing I did was I designed the LCD screen. It was a big project to develop that. What did I need? I needed to have the customer be able to turn the water heater on and off. I need to have them to be able to program the water heater so that the water heater would go on at certain times of the day and turn off at certain times of the day. And you ask why. You haven't asked, but you will. There is time of use billing right now that is becoming, I won't call it popular. It's not popular with the people who have to pay their bills, but it's very popular with the energy companies. And when you have high use of electricity in your home, especially during the air conditioning and during the heating season, what have you, they raise your cost per kilowatt hour. So you might be paying 8 or 9 cents a kilowatt hour at some time of the day, but other times of the day you might be paying 16, 18, 20 cents. In the case of San Francisco, they pay as high as 56 cents a kilowatt hour and as low as 18 cents a kilowatt hour. So why wouldn't you want to program your water heater to heat you? Because a water heater is a very efficient device. It actually holds its temperature, unless you're really draining the water out of it. It holds its temperature for 4 or 5 hours. So why don't you heat it at the time when the kilowatt hours are the lowest? And your energy company will tell you that. So, okay, now you can program this. And also, when you're going on vacation, which has started this whole process, there's a vacation mode in here, and there's an away mode. And there's an away mode. And the away mode takes the temperature and drops it to operate between 75 and 85 degrees. It takes a very short time to bring it up to 120. And if it's on a vacation mode, it drops it down to 50 degrees to 60 degrees. So you're saving a lot of energy where you're away on vacation. So all this stuff I designed into the software that I designed. I got ahead of myself with this, but anyway, designed the case for the transmitter. Then I wrote all the specifications that I needed, because I needed to find a supplier to make this. I wasn't going to make it. I don't have a factory. Then I designed the circuitry, the board, the circuit board, the receiver that sits on top of the water heater. So that's when this transmitter talks to that receiver. It's mounted on top of the water heater. Again, writing more specifications for the product. Then I'm going to go across the pond where I've done most of my business in Taiwan, China, Hong Kong. So I created an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, and you can go to a company called, and this is marked in there, LegalZoom.com, and they're very capable of doing all kinds of legal work for you at a very reasonable price, like 10-20% of what you'd pay for an attorney if you sign up for it. I'm not anti-attorneys, but I don't use them if I can get away with using something like LegalZoom. They have product on their shelf that can be personalized just really quickly over the internet and what have you, and you can go out and download that at a very reasonable price. Again, when I did all my drawings and what have you, I put this confidential statement on it that helps. I went to the Taiwan Trade Development Council, the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, Taiwan Trade Nets, and I used Alibaba and Global Resources to locate companies that were into this kind of business when I was across the pond. The next thing, I did select a manufacturer, and he made me a prototype. So this is his prototype. Here's the box, and I wanted to mount it on front of the water heater, and ultimately it did not get mounted in front of the water heater. It got mounted on top of the water heater. That was their little transmitter, and so we did a proof of concept. It did work. They sent this to me. I said, oh, this is great, and what have you. These are the changes we need to make. Let's move forward. Then I created a test lab. And I got parts from Alibaba, and I got parts from eBay. This is a water heater that was set up in the test lab. All these are testing equipment to measure temperatures as the time on, the time off, and kept track of all the water temperatures and the power consumption and what have you. Then I went back to the USPTO, and I wanted to select a name. And I had to research, again, an easy trip through the USPTO to research a name to find out if it's been used. Found out that Aqua Smart was available, and so I went to the next step and trademarked the name Aqua Smart. Then I went to a company called Fiverr. Fiverr's 99 Designs is the one that did it. They changed the name to Fiverr. There are places you can go and you can have them bid on what you want done. So I needed to have a good looking logo. Aqua Smart all by itself with that font was nice, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted a logo, and I wanted it in color, and I wanted it to be kind of fancy. You can go to these companies here and say, look, I have this logo, or excuse me, I have this name, and this is what it does. It works on a water heater and what have you, and they will submit. You pay them $99. Believe me, pay them $99, and you will get maybe 10 or 15 people that will submit logo designs for you. They'll send them all to you. And these are just independents, and they can be all over the world. They'll come from India, and they'll come from China, and you pick one that you like, that's the person that gets the 99 bucks. And then you start personalizing it, and then maybe it gets to be $199, but it's pretty cheap to use any one of these kind of companies. The next thing I wanted is a logo. Did the same thing. So I got this 2-color logo, and I registered that too with the USPTO. I had to get a business card. You probably have all seen Vistaprint. You can get a business card like this, close to this, for like $9.95. You get, I think, 250 of them or something for that. If you want to get it really personalized, make it a little bit better, it might cost you $29.95 and what have you. So you got to have a business card. Who are you? What you do, and what have you. Vistaprint.com is a great place to go for any kind of a business card you want. Even if you want to put your name on it, you go to Marietta College for $9.95, you can get one. Then I had to form a corporation. I've owned 12 companies, okay? So Aqua Smart now is a corporation. So I go to this company called CorporateSeal.com. And CorporateSeal.com will give you a binder about like this size, and it will be filled with all the corporate documents that you need. And they will pre-print your name in it, including stock certificates, including all minutes, all the things you need to have a legitimate corporation, whether it's a C Corp, an S Corp, or an LLC, for 50 bucks. Here's one of the stock certificates. I own 100% of the company, so I own 100% of the stock, but nevertheless, it formalizes everything at a very, very low price. I think that's the thing you have to keep in mind is when you want to start a business, you don't want to go through the first $10,000, $15,000 and not have much to show for it. So I got all this done for probably less than $500. The next thing, I had to finance the business. Fortunately, I have been very successful in other businesses, so I had the money in the bank, so to speak. So I loaned my corporation again. It's a process to keep the IRS happy, so that you can write off your losses. And I loaned the company $100,000 to start out. And as I found out as time went on, it wasn't quite enough. But anyway, you got to start someplace. I applied for a provisional patent, and right back to the LegalZoom or right back to the USPTO. There's 2 types of patents. There's a provisional patent, well, there's 3, but there's a provisional patent, there's a utility patent. The provisional patent gives you, the USPTO gives you 12 months to finalize your design on your product. So you put that name out there, you put that product out there, you put that business plan, corporate plan, so to speak, on the product, and you make changes all along the line. So you've reserved your spot when you convert it to a utility patent for 12 months. If you don't do it, then it just expires on you. So I converted it to a utility patent. Now, patents can be very expensive. They can be definitely time consuming. I was over 2 years trying to get a patent on this device, and I never got it. And it was interesting, the reason I never got it is because I invented the Skytech remote controls and I was using the same technology, so they're saying anybody with the capability of understanding what the Skytech's all about could have made this device. So I spent thousands of dollars, because that's what it costs you to apply for it, and lots of time, and I never did get my patent. Nothing wrong with that. It's just that I wanted it. Nobody else was doing this in the world, so I figured, what the heck, I might as well try to patent it, which I did not do with all my other stuff. The next thing I had to do is, after I got the prototypes made and what have you, because it's electrical, I had to either get UL or Intertech testing done. That cost a lot of money, and it cost me a lot of time. And it cost me a lot of time because there wasn't any standard for a retrofit electric water heater thermostat. So they had to write the standard on me. In the meantime, the time clock is running and the meter's running and what have you. And so I lost another year just trying to get it through the testing. I did end up with an ETL stamp. I did it in Canada and the United States. I used Intertech as the company. Intertech and UL are interchangeable as far as what they do as far as product testing, safety testing going. The next thing I had to do, because I'm using radio frequency, I had to deal with the FCC, and I had to get an FCC license, and that took time and testing and money. Then I had to get a barcode. So you go to this company, nationwide barcode one, and you would think, well, that must be complicated. It cost me $8, and you register your name. They give you this number, so that any retailer that picks that number or enters that number into the cash register system, when they scan it, boom, it's an Aqua Smart. You do this for inventory control. You do this for sales. Next thing I knew, I had to build a box. Now I got the product, I got the box, I got it tested. I spent 2 years, and I got to put this thing in a box. I go right back to Fiverr, and I put it out there. Here, I want a retail box. I don't want to have it in 4-color because of the expense, and I'm not sure it's going to end up in the retail shelf. It might end up in the back room of a plumbing and heating distributor company. So black and white's just fine. So I ended up with a box. Now I have to write the owner's manual. Well, remember, most of the people do not want to play with 220 volts. They don't even want to play with 110 volts. So I had a 40-page owner's manual that I built, picture by picture, page by page, and an 18, I'll jump myself there, an 18-minute video on how to install this device on your water heater, because you had to get into the 220 volt wiring, and you had to take the wiring from the water heater and you had to put it into my receiver. And once that was done, that was the last time you ever touched the electric. And it was a DIY product, could be, or you could hire a plumber to do it or an electrician to do it. So the next thing, I got to go advertise this. So I got to build a website. So these are some of the companies that are out there that do websites. You got to get yourself a domain. A lot of work involved, and I haven't even gone to market yet. Now I'm importing this product from Taiwan. So now I have to post a $50,000 bond with the U.S. government to say that I'm not importing things illegally and I'm doing everything that's been tested, et cetera, et cetera. So I hire a firm called Expeditors. I go to trade risk to get the bond itself. And now I've got myself my import contact company, and I've got myself my bond. Now I'm ready now to make a shipment. But after it gets here, I've got to set up arrangements with FedEx and UPS, the U.S. Post Office, and what have you, to move this product around stateside. Now I'm going to distribute the product. Now, how am I going to sell it? Am I going to sell it myself, or am I going to set up distributors? Am I going to hire salesmen? So you create a distributor agreement, and they can take all kinds of forms. You can go to LegalZoom to get some help with that, or you can just devise that contract all on itself. Now I go and I want to put out a PR release. So I'm going to all the PR companies, I'm going to newspapers and what have you, and say, hey, there's this new product. It's called the Aqua Smart. It's a retrofit device on electric hot water heaters. It's going to save you 25% on your energy bill and what have you. And so I got to go out there and spend time and money getting that all done again on this product. Then I go to a first trade show. So I have to make a booth, and I have to generate what looks like actually operating water heaters. Those are actually barrels that I created, and I put the Aqua Smart right on the top of it. And all this signing, I needed to buy this. I bought this booth for $1,000 or $500, I guess. Bought all this signing for another $500, and I went to the first trade show, and I finally introduced the product almost 3 years after the concept. It can take that long to get there. I got a lot of newspaper coverage because it was such a unique item. This brand in 2013. That was my lab, and I put a second water in here from a different company so that I could handle Bradford White as well as A.O. Smith and Ream water heater. Then I had to create newspaper ads, magazine ads, whatever kind of ad that I needed. So here was the whole product, trying to show it in an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, was less than that, and come up with a special price. Went to all these different companies. I went in the process, I bought space in no, there's another one, in trade magazines, such as the Wholesaler and Contractor, and there's many different magazines. And they're all very expensive. Like a quarter of a page ad in Popular Mechanics runs $23,000. It's a lot of money. You go right through it, oh, that's nice. That's $23,000 you just passed. Handyman magazine, it's $58,000 for a full page in color. But how are you going to get your name out there? You're using your internet the best you can. You're using your PR resources the best you can. You need to have magazines. You need to go to trade shows. You're a busy guy. Okay, so what does all this cost? Well, all the tooling, or the mock-up samples and what have you, cost me about $3,200. The toolings to make the receiver, the transmitter, and all the changes I had to make cost another $33,000. All the testing and certification started out at $10,000, but by the time I got through, it cost me $22,000. Then I had legal costs, this cost, that cost, and everything else. The video cost me $4,100. My startup costs, which include trade shows, samples, and all that other stuff, there's another $34,000. All of a sudden, I ate up that $100,000, and I haven't even put a product out the door yet. That's eye-opening. If you don't have it. I was okay. So what are my costs? Well, overseas, my cost was, at the factory, was $36.50, but I had to bring it in, so I had ocean freight. I had freight stateside and what have you, local carriage, what have you. So my cost was $42. I'm selling it for $99. Not making a lot of money. I got to sell an awful lot of them to make up that first $100,000. But what happened? And this was pricing programs for big box stores, for retailers, for internet selling and what have you. You've got to know what your costs are. You've got to know what your sales are. You've got to know what your profits are. And then I go to the trade show, and people come up and look at the product, and they say, do you have an app for that? Now, I'm into this 4 years now, okay? When I started, the smartphone was smart, but it really wasn't that smart. But now, all of a sudden, people are using their cell phones to turn on their HVAC thermostats at home. And I didn't have an app for that. And they said, well, when you get an app for that, give us a call. All of a sudden, my market dried up on me almost overnight. So I started investigating what it would cost for me to add an app. And basically, it was somewhere between $200,000 and $400,000. I tried to piggyback onto other people's apps and what have you, and it just wouldn't work very well. And I said, no, I've already spent a little bit more than that $100,000. So I'm going to be in this thing $300,000 to $500,000, and I haven't sold one. I did sell some. I didn't sell very many at that time, but what am I going to do? Well, there was a company in Canada that had the whole protocol, had the app for an electric baseboard, 220 volt electric baseboard heater. And so I met with them, and I asked them what it would take for us to join forces, to collaborate and what have you. He was somewhat interested, but he was broke. And he said, I can't do the technology that you want in piggyback. So I invested $250,000 in their company, thinking that this would be the answer. And it ultimately was the answer. I had to somewhat exit the business about a year ago. I got back all my money. I got back the stock that they gave me as part of it and what have you. And I joined forces with this company called CASA in Montreal. And the next thing we did, this is their factory, the next thing we did was to develop, this is their Caleo product, which was $99. We both wanted to be at $99 for a Wi-Fi activated device. And we joined forces with a company called Giant, which was the only manufacturer of water heaters in Canada. And we came up with this device with both the baseboard heater and the electric water heater in one platform, and one remote system and what have you. That's a long journey, and I'm sharing it with you because if you come up with a new idea and what have you, you better be sure you research the devil out of it, because it'll bankroll you. It'll break your bankroll, let's put it that way. It was a great journey. It wasn't exactly where I wanted to end up. The water heater companies that I went to the first trade show that I showed my technical specs to was A.O. Smith, and I'll probably get sued. But anyway, I went up and I talked to them about this concept, and I'm talking to this engineer, and he is just giddy. He says, we've been trying to figure out how to do this for years, and here you are, you've done it. He pulls over a marketing vice president and what have you, and he says, Mark, look at this is what we want, this is what we want. And he looked at my sheet, and it had patent pending on it. And he looked me in the eye and he said, well, we'll just wait for your patent to be issued, and then we'll knock you off. So I eliminated 46% of the business right there, because I never talked to A.O. Smith ever again. So I had two other water heater companies. Bradford White, I almost got to cut a deal with them. Going it alone on a brand new product or concept and going into a large market like the water heater market, they're not going to just embrace you, believe me. You have to cover your tracks with paperwork that'll work. Hopefully it'll work. It'll stand the test of times in courts and what have you. It's unfortunate a lot of companies don't have a lot of ethics when it comes to dealing with inventors and what have you. And so you have to be careful in that arena. But it was a great journey. Did I get rich off it? No. Did I leave some money on the table? Yeah. Am I distressed by not having brought it to market? In some respects, yes, because it was a retrofit product. I was not interfering with the market of the market leaders in the manufacturing of water heaters. Ultimately, all three of the companies now have a Wi-Fi application for their water heaters. However, you still have to go to the water heater to input that information if you're at your home. My device it hung on the wall right next to your HVAC stat, and you can plug in all the information you want to make the water heater work. And you don't need to control your water heater temperatures as much as you do your home water heater temperatures. Now you see Wi-Fi applications for everything, for security systems. You can even check your refrigerator and find out if you're out of milk and all that kind of stuff. So this technology world has changed so much in the last 10 or 15 years. If you're not on top of it, they're gonna roll right over you. So anyway, that's kind of the story. The Aqua Smart. It was a good journey. You can see there's a tremendous amount of work involved to bring a product to market. You have, with the internet, you have access to information that I didn't have 15 years ago or 10 years ago.